Hello everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back with another Japanese deep dive into Kinji Fukasaku's filmography and continuing on in kind of release order to my best of my ability in terms of access to his films. As mentioned in my previous video for Wolves, Pig and Men, I'm doing a kind of a explorative series now. I'm kind of going for the collection that I have, ones that are available on digital, ones I can find on DVD, and just kind of see if I can identify a signature, see if I can find some really cool explorative films from this director, and just kind of building up to some of the big players and some of the big ones I've yet to see for the very first time, including the Battle Without Honor collection, which I'm very excited to check out. It's a lot of movies in that series, including the sequel one as well, in terms of New Battle for Honor. Lots of movies to check out from this director, and I want to have a bit more of a deeper understanding, a bit more of appreciation of this director outside of Battle Royale, and I'm slowly finding that within some of the films I've already previously reviewed, including Wolves, Pig and Men, which I have recently done a review for, which I really did enjoy and I thought was a really impressive, very early entry in his kind of career. So continuing on timeline order-wise, in 1966, we have The Threat. This was released by Arrow quite recently, I think a couple of months ago now. First time ever released in Blu-ray edition, as far as I'm aware. So there you go, it's the edition, slipcase, original poster, booklet inside. So you can buy this on the on your local HMV. You can buy this on the Arrow store, or if you want to watch it and not pick it up, you can also watch it on the Arrow video channel as well for a free subscription. Might save you a little bit of money if you want to check it out for yourself without picking it up. The Threat stars Rentaro Makuni, if I say his name correctly, which is our main protagonist. Also play one of the brother characters within Wolves, Pig and Men, so returning actor again. I know this actor was quite a big deal in Japanese cinema, had a lot of big influence and a lot of big movies during that time. I think this was the early portion of his career up to this point, and this is a much more of a chamber thriller, smaller budget kind of movie compared to what Kinji Fukasaku usually does in terms of the big Yakuza movies. This is not a Yakuza movie. Yes, I know, pre-Yakuza, what's going on here. So this is definitely something quite different for Kinji Fukasaku, but not in terms of his style, not in terms of his creativity, in terms of how this film's put together. The technical aspects alone, I think, is very impressive, and he always does a really good job at creating tension, having interesting kind of, guerrilla style kind of filmmaking in terms of the street locations, and making just something like a house, make it interesting and kind of change up in terms of the angles, and have expressions and use lighting and kind of have tension happen within moments and intercut between character reactions. And he does a really good job on the technical side of The Threat. As you may have noticed as well, also High and Low on the Shelf, directed by Kira Kurosawa, released in 1963. This was 3 years before The Threat, and I've done this very deliberately because it's talked about on the extras, and also it's quite noticeable being the fact that this has a very similar storyline to The Threat as well. Now, I haven't done a video on this, which I definitely will at some point. This is absolutely one of my favorite Kurosawa films. I've only seen a handful of his kind of more acclaimed kind of samurai-based movies. I've seen more of his dramas in terms of director. I've also done the Seven Samurai, which I'm going to get through his films very slowly. However, High and Low is absolutely phenomenal. It really is fantastic. Just a really impressive film for the early 60s in terms of just performances, storyline wise, technical aspects, everything. This is the definitive version of a kidnap situation. It's discussed on the extras on the Threat Blu-ray. The idea of Japanese films at the time during the kind of early 60s, a lot of the kind of the same rinse and repeat type of stories were about kidnappers and robbers and thieves, and just kind of ransom kind of storylines that were populating a lot of Japanese kind of cinema. And The Threat is very much in tune, very much in line, similar to High and Low, which even the kind of critic who talked about it on the exposition basically wondered if Kinji Fukasaku took some influence from the High and Low to make this film. Coincidental kind of themes and ideas that are lifted from that film, or maybe that's just down to the same type of story being done over and over again. Having the definitive version of this type of storyline being done within High and Low does kind of sour this film a little bit, and kind of judging it as a separate kind of film, even by itself, without even comparing it to High and Low, I don't think it's as strong as it could have been. The storyline for The Threat follows our main protagonist character and his family, which during the start of the film has got married to the boss's daughter. He's very much a kind of a yes man, someone who does what he's told, someone who is basically kind of worked his way up in terms of his career, and there's speculation whether he's kind of married the daughter to kind of get up in that career, essentially. The film follows up this family. He's got a wife, he's obviously got the child at home, and these two ex-convicts essentially escape from prison, and they basically invade this house. So they're basically holding this family hostage and basically living there and just threatening to basically hurt his wife or his child or himself if he doesn't cooperate with his demands. All during the escape, they've kidnapped a billionaire's grandson and holding it for ransom as well alongside it. So it's a very intense situation while holding this family hostage, basically living there, doing what they want, being very aggressive, very kind of angry, and you don't know what their full intentions are going to be once this kind of thing plays out. They want to spend there for a couple of days and basically want to use the protagonist character as the kind of the whipping boy, the kind of the yes man, the robot, as our kind of main kind of convict character keeps saying in the film. Basically controlling him, getting him to do all the kind of the errands and all the runs, and basically go to the phone booths, make the arrangements, and basically organize this kind of exchange between the child and this kind of ransom money, which they're expecting. They need this money to basically get out of hot water because they are all over the press in terms of the broadcast news and the papers, and they're basically putting this family in a very kind of intense situation, with the father character, the main protagonist, being very unhinged as the film goes along, and being someone who is so used to being the kind of the whipping boy, the yes man, where he starts to crack in places towards the kind of late second act going into the third act. And that's essentially what the premise is. It's a very simple kind of idea. It's basically a chamber thriller concept, something that's been done multiple times, as already mentioned, within High and Low and many other movies within the West. I think there is a remake to this film called Desperate Hours, which I think is the exact same storyline, but there are so many other variations of the exact same kind of concept throughout multiple different types of films, not only in Japanese cinema, but also in Hong Kong and America. In terms of the overall package of the film, in terms of the character, storyline, everything come together, I think it's a very watchable film. I think it's a very much a kind of an easy kind of serviceable pass. It's very much a traditional type of idea that doesn't really kind of go for it. It doesn't take too much risks, if I'm being absolutely honest. While I do appreciate the concept, while I do like some of the small crumb-based kind of angles they do go into in terms of the storyline with the yes man type kind of character, it never really kind of goes for it. It never really kind of escalates to a point where I get excited, and it comes across a little bit kind of deflating by the end, a little bit unsatisfying to slowly get unhinged and kind of act and do something towards the kind of the late third act of the film. I felt that idea is good, but not well done in this film. And I get what he's trying to do. I get the point of it. I get why he is not reacting as much as he should be, or why he's reacting in the wrong way, why he's kind of bottling up all this kind of anger and frustration. He's taking it out on his wife. The situation that's not her fault. He's doing things which is very questionable, and he's kind of basically not stepping up to the plate. Essential action within the situation, the lack of kind of, speaking up, saying something, doing something. I know that's one of the themes of the films and one of the points that the film is trying to go for, this idea of a kind of the yes man kind of character finally stepping up to do something, which does happen towards the third act, which I think is so deflating, so unsatisfying, and so kind of just kind of last minute and just not really well thought out and just kind of thrown in there. I don't think it's very satisfying. I don't think it's well deserving. I found his character to be extremely frustrating, unfulfilling kind of, experience ultimately. And, compared to something like, Wolf's Pig and Men, there are so many better movies in this genre, in this type of idea, that's done a much better job. Hence the highs and lows, which I'd absolutely recommend watching that instead. Much better film. In terms of Kinji Fukasaku, I think it's definitely one to check out, at least in terms of the filmography. I definitely think it's something that's great. It's going to get a good release in terms of people that want to see a bit more of those types of ideas. However, for myself, in terms of what I've seen prior, and I definitely think it's the weaker version of High and Low and many other films like this, and I think there are much better movies in this same space. So what are your thoughts and opinions on The Threat, Kinji Fukasaku? What are your thoughts on this idea of the bottle chamber kind of movies, this idea of the kidnapper kind of hostage situation type films? Quite a few of these within kind of Japanese cinema during the 60s, and obviously beyond that as well. What are some of your favorites compared to like The Threat or High and Low? I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions. Please comment down below. So meantime, guys, I'm for reviews. Signing out.